Hello and welcome back with a new series. In this series, we are going to discuss about a very interesting topic, that is genetics. Have you ever wondered that what is genetics? Okay, don't worry. In this video, we are going to discuss about what is genetics, who was the father of genetics, and what are the basic terms that are used in genetics. Because many of you will read many things about genetics like the laws of genetics, etc. But the basic terms are really very confusing among the students. That's why some students found genetics as a very difficult topic. But I promise you, by this end of this video, you will be very clear with what are the basic terms in genetics. So let's begin. Before that, I want to ask you why this genetics term came across, or why this term genetics first started. So you all know that the living organism, one of the characteristic feature of the living organism is reproduction. As you all know that non-living organism cannot reproduce, whereas living organism can reproduce. So reproduction is a very important physiology which is found in case of living organism. As a case of living organism reproduce, they form the offspring, and the offspring resemble to that of the parent, but it is not always necessary that the individual offsprings which is formed from the parents resemble their or the offspring which is formed resemble their parent. Do you look equal alike like your parents? No, you do not look. You have certain variation in them. Okay, you may acquire the genes from your father or from the mother, but you do not look alike like your father or mother. You have certain variation in them. That is called genetics. Okay, so what is variation? Variation is the change or the difference which is found in the characteristics of the offspring from the parent. And what is genetics? We are going to study that. So let's begin. I have made a handwritten note for your convenience so that you may get easily and know the terms easily. So this is my handwritten note. If you have any doubt regarding any spelling, or you can't understand my handwriting, you can comment also. I can help you out. But in this video, you will be getting through this. Don't worry. So what, first of all, before understanding genetics, we need to understand a term called heredity. What is heredity? The mechanism of transmission of characters resemble as well as difference from the parent generation to the offspring is called heredity. What is a simple meaning? You can simply say that the characters which we derive from the parent, let maybe it will be similar resembling character, or the characters that is difference from generation to the offspring is known as hereditary. Or you can simply say the characters which we derive from the parent is known as heredity. Isn't it interesting? Okay, you have certain characteristics like your father, like your mother, that is known as heredity. Okay, and the scientific study of these variation, this hereditary variation, and the environmental factor which influence this variation is known as genetics. So simply we can say genetics is the study of variation, hereditary variation, and the factor. What are the environmental factor like temperature, any other factors which affect on this genetic or this factors is known as genetics. So you are now clear with this. What is genetics? This is the definition, sorry. This is the definition of genetics. Okay. This is the definition of genetics, which is very important. Okay, and this is the definition of hereditary. So for the 1 mark question, and for the exam it is asked, it will be given, the statement will be given and 4 options will be given, and you have to identify that. If you know the statements well, if you understand the term, that is what is hereditary, what is genetics, you can easily choose your answer. Okay, that's why I have given you in the lengthy format. Okay, next coming, that genetics is broadly divided into 3 categories. Okay, 3 broad categories the genetics is divided. One is known as classical genetics, second is known as molecular genetics, and third is known as evolutionary genetics. So genetics, as you see, is a very vast topic. It is not only limited to Mendelian thing. Okay, it is a very vast topic. That is, it is a broad area like the molecular biology. It is a very broad area. But in this part of the video or in this upcoming series, first we will be dealing with the classical genetics, that is Mendelian principle, what is the laws, what are the linkage, then that is what is the crossing over. All these terms comes under the classical genetics. Molecular genetics like the DNA replication, the processing, expression of DNA, regulation of DNA, transfers of DNA, all this come under molecular genetics. Some part of this we have already discussed, like replication, transcription, translation we have discussed. They come under molecular. Molecular means to understand in depth, that is to understand in DNA basis, DNA level. Okay. Evolutionary genetics means to study the evolutionary change, because we have known that due to evolution there is lot of changes happening from generation to generation. To study that, to phylogenetic tree, pedigree, all this come under the evolutionary genetics. So but we are knowing in this we will be confined to this classical genetics, and in this part of the video we are only going to discuss about the basic terms that are used in genetics. Not now, in this video we are not going to discuss the laws. In the next part of the video we are going to discuss the laws of Mendel and all. But first you need to be very clear with that of the terms of the genetics that is used. From the very beginning I am dealing with it. Before that, who is the father of genetics? Who is the great man who discovered this? Obviously, he is the great man, as you can see in this photo. This is Gerard John Mendel. As from his name, the term genetics is given. Okay, from his name, the laws are made. Mendel laws. Okay, Mendelian laws. And before that, we need to understand a term called gene. What is a gene? Gene is a unit of a hereditary. What is a unit of hereditary? Means the hereditary which we have studying, for that gene is necessary. Okay, so it is defined as a unit of hereditary that may influence the outcome of an organism trait. That is, the organisms which you are seeing, let be it human, cat, dog, or any other living creature is you are seeing, this is due to the difference in the gene. That's why this is known as unit of hereditary. Okay, and Mendel conducted experiment on garden pea plant, that is known as Pisum sativum, and he conducted a lot of experiments and he came with the 3 laws which we have known for years, and we will be discussing that law in the next part. But before that, why he chose garden pea plant only? Why not certain other thing? Because the characteristics of these plants was well defined. It was easy. First of all, you can say it was easy to study. Okay, anything you are discovering or experimenting, if that is a difficult or complicated thing, then it will be very difficult in concluding things. Okay, that's why Mendelian used this Pisum sativum. First of all, the characters was well defined. What all characters he used, we will be discussing later. Second, bisexual flowers were seen. Bisexual means both male and female flowers were seen in the same plant itself. That's why it was very convenient for him to do experiment. Third, easy hybridization. What is hybridization? Mixing of the characteristic. It was easy on doing this. And fourth is the short life cycle. Okay, short life cycle means the outcomes which was coming, or the offsprings which were, or the progeny which was forming very easily. There was no longer life cycle. If you had taken a certain other thing which had longer life cycle, then the experiments will be very lengthy and lifelong. Okay, many years it will take. So these are certain characteristics which I have mentioned why he chose this Pisum sativum for his experiment. Next we are going to study what do you mean by trait, and what are the 7 characteristics or the trait which he chose for his experiment. First of all, you will be understanding what is trait. Trait is the characteristic of an organism, you can say. What is the character? Like where it is tall, dwarf, or what is its length, what is the position, what is its color. These are all belong to the characteristics. Okay, so characteristics of an organism is known as trait or character. Okay, So he chose 7 character, and according to that he divided some of the character into dominant and then into recessive group. What is dominant and what is recessive we will be discussing later on. So first of all we will be understanding what are the 7 characteristics which we have discussed. First is the stem length. Okay, first is stem length. In that he saw that the tall was dominant, D for dominant and R for recessive. Okay, he saw tall, that is T, that is tall for dominant, and dwarf was recessive. Okay, small t. Why I am writing small t I will be discussing later on. Then flower position axial was dominant and that is recessive was terminal. Then flower color violet dominant, white was recessive. Seed coat color grey was dominant, white was recessive. Pod shape inflated dominant and constricted recessive. Pod color green was dominant and yellow was recessive. Cotyledon color yellow was dominant and green was recessive, and seed form round was dominant and recessive was the wrinkled one. Okay, so by conducting experiments he concluded that which one was dominant and which one was recessive. But what is dominant and what is recessive? Okay, before that we need to understand a term called allele. What is allele? You have understood the term what is gene. Okay, that is a unit of hereditary. Now you need to understand that each gene is present in the two alternative form. Okay, so you can simply say the alternative form of each gene is called allele. That is, for example, you can say height of a plant. Height of a plant may be tall or may be short. Since this tall and short define the same character, that is height of a plant. The height of a plant is a character. It is occurring in the two alternative form, that is tall or dwarf, not in middle portion. That is known as the allele. With this example you might be clear. Also it can be defined as the gene which occupy on the homologous chromosome is of the same character and define the same character is called as the allele. Why I am mentioning the same character? Because you can see here this tall and short is defining the same character, that is the height of a plant. So the height of the plant have two different allele form, that is tallness and shortness. Okay, these are known as the allele. This is one of the example. Many other examples are also present. Before that we need to understand the different types of allele which are being used. First is the wild type allele. Wild type allele is the normal allele, or the prevalent allele is known as the wild type, that is a normal allele which you are found in the population. Mutant allele, the 1% allele which is due to the mutation, altered form not from normal to the altered form is known as the mutant allele. They do not function normally and they show certain recessive characteristics. Okay, this is known as the mutant allele. Next, coming to the dominant allele. What is dominant? The allele which is expressed in which is expressed is known as dominant allele, and it hides its activity of the recessive allele. It hides the activity of the recessive allele and it's dominant and it's expressive. Okay, you can say the allele which is expressive is known as the dominant allele, and it is represented as uppercase, like example capital T, okay, for dominant. And recessive allele is effect only the homozygous state. What is homozygous state? We will discussing, and it is represented as lower case, that is small t, small t. This is the height of the plant. Capital T is for the tall and small t is for the dwarf. Okay, so recessive allele are those which is only effective in the homozygous state, whereas dominant allele is effective in both the homozygous as well as the heterozygous state. What is homozygous? Two identical allele for a trait is known as the homozygous, that is TT, capital T, small t, small t. These are individually known as the homozygous condition. Okay, that is two identical allele will be represented. Heterozygous means one of each allele will be represented, that is one from tall, one from dwarf, that is known as heterozygous. So hope with this you are clear with what is homozygous and what is heterozygous. Before that, let's see this diagram. This is known as heterozygous allele because one is capital E, one is small e. This is homozygous recessive allele. Why recessive? Because small d, lowercase, and they are in the same condition. Okay, so they are the homologous recessive allele. This is homozygous dominant allele because same C, capital C, that is why homozygous same. And these two, that is B and A, these are the allele of different gene because this is the gene for A and this is the gene for B. So these two are the alleles of the different gene and these two are the alleles of the same gene, and this is the heterozygous condition, you can say. Okay, so this is the homologous chromosome and this is the terms which are being used. Next, what is genotype? Genotype is the genetic constitution of a particular trait and phenotype is the physical appearance, and phenotype depend upon the genotypic constitution. Okay, so this is all about the basic terms of the genetics. What is genetics? What are the three areas of genetics? Why? What is the term trait? What do you mean by allele? What are the different forms of allele? What do you mean by homozygous, heterozygous, genotype, phenotype? All of these terms I have discussed in this video, which you will be coming across many times. So that's why I request you to watch this part of the video first, then you can watch the upcoming videos will be coming out. So first you get clear with the basic, then you can watch the upcoming video. So with this we come to the end of this part of the video. In the next video we are going to discuss about the laws which was proposed by Mendel, what was the law of Mendel, and then we will be discussing later on what are the other things of genetics. So if you are new to my channel, do subscribe, share among your friends because these are very informative. These are the things which are usually asked in exam. Okay, that is basic things only. Next, you can like if you find this in video informative, and thank you and have a nice day.